I'm standing at the back of St. Catherine's Church in Manhattan, watching a funeral that shouldn't be happening. There are 400 people here, crying, mourning, saying goodbye to a woman who isn't dead. I know because I saw her this morning at 3 a.m. I talked to her. She was breathing, and now her son is up there giving a eulogy, talking about letting her go peacefully, and I know, it's all a lie. My name is Peter Young. I'm 52 years old, and I'm a hospital janitor at Mercy Hospital on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I've been cleaning floors and emptying bedpans for 30 years. 30 years of being invisible. 30 years of people looking through me like I'm furniture. 30 years of, "Hey, you missed a spot," and "Can you clean this up?" without ever hearing "thank you" or "how are you doing?" I never minded, not really. Honest work is honest work, and I was proud of what I did, proud that I kept that hospital clean and safe, proud that I raised my daughter Sarah on a janitor's salary after my wife died when Sarah was just 3 years old. But there were nights, plenty of nights, when I'd lie awake in my tiny apartment in Queens, listening to the upstairs neighbors fighting, and I'd think about the life I didn't get to live. The chemistry degree I never pursued, the research career I never had, the potential I never reached because life had other plans. I'm not bitter. I'm really not. Sarah turned out beautiful and kind and talented despite growing up with just me and a paycheck that barely covered rent. She's at NYU now, studying music education, working 3 part-time jobs to afford it, because my janitor salary can only stretch so far. But sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to be the person I dreamed of being instead of the person I had to be. And for the past 3 weeks, I've been cleaning the ICU room of Melissa Dixon every single night, talking to a woman in a coma, playing music for her, treating her like a person instead of a body. And today, I'm about to do something that will either save her life or destroy mine. I'm about to stop this funeral. Before we get into this, where are you watching from today? Share in the comments below. It's March 18th, 2023, a Saturday morning. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be at Mercy Hospital on the Upper East Side, finishing my shift, mopping floors and emptying trash cans like I've done for the past 30 years. But I'm here instead, at this church, at this funeral, because I overheard something I wasn't supposed to hear. Let me back up. Let me tell you how this started. 3 weeks ago, on February 25th, Melissa Dixon was brought into Mercy Hospital's ICU. Massive stroke. Found unconscious in her office at Dixon Industries, the chemical manufacturing company she built from nothing into a billion-dollar empire over 40 years. I didn't know who she was at first. To me, she was just another patient in room 407, another person in a bed hooked up to machines, another room I had to clean every night at 11 p.m. when the visitors were gone and the hospital was quiet. I'm the night janitor. 3rd shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 5 days a week. I clean the ICU, the surgical floors, the cafeteria. I empty biohazard containers and mop up blood and disinfect everything that needs disinfecting. I've been doing it for 30 years. Since I was 22 years old. People don't really see janitors. We're the people who come after everyone else is gone, who make things clean for the morning shift, who keep the hospital running even though nobody thinks about us. Doctors don't make eye contact. Nurses are polite but distant. Patients are usually unconscious or too sick to notice. That's fine. I'm used to it. But here's the thing about being invisible. You see everything. You hear everything. Because people forget you're there. The first night I cleaned Melissa Dixon's room, she was alone. Completely alone. No family, no visitors, no flowers, no cards. Just machines beeping, keeping her alive, and the antiseptic smell of hospital air. The nurse on duty, Jessica Rodriguez, 28 years old, kind eyes, the type who actually remembers the janitor's names, was checking vitals when I came in with my cart at 11 p.m. "You can clean," she said without looking up from the chart. "She's stable, deep coma, no brain activity yet. Family's trying to decide what to do." I nodded. Started my routine. emptied the small trash can, nothing in it. She hadn't had visitors to generate trash, mopped the floor with the disinfectant that makes everything smell like fake lemons, wiped down the surfaces, the rolling table, the windowsill, the arms of the visitor's chair that no one had sat in. Standard routine. I'd cleaned hundreds of ICU rooms over 30 years, knew every corner, every surface, every protocol. But something made me stop that night. Maybe it was the complete silence except for the machines. Maybe it was how peaceful she looked. Not like death, like sleep. Like she might open her eyes any second and ask where she was. Maybe it was the loneliness that hung in the air like humidity. Or maybe it was because she reminded me a little bit of my own mother. Not in looks. My mother was Puerto Rican. Dark hair, round face. Nothing like this white woman with her sharp features and gray blonde hair. But in the way she lay there, dignified even in unconsciousness. My mother had been the same way when she was dying of cancer 15 years ago. Dignity, even when everything was being taken from her. "What's her name?" I asked Jessica. Jessica looked up, surprised. Janitors don't usually ask questions. We're not really part of the medical team. We're just there. "Melissa," Jessica said. "Melissa Dixon. She's a big deal, apparently. CEO of Dixon Industries, chemical manufacturing company, worth billions. Had a massive stroke. Just came in today, found unconscious at her desk." "She have family?" "A son, Thomas, 40s, I think. He was here earlier today." Jessica paused, and I could see her choosing her words carefully. Nurses are good at that. They see everything, know everything, but they're trained to be diplomatic. "He seemed stressed, upset, obviously, but also—" She trailed off. "Also what?" "Also impatient. Kept asking when we'd know if she'd wake up. Kept talking about arrangements and decisions and moving forward. I don't know. Maybe that's just how some people deal with grief. Businesslike. Or maybe, I thought but didn't say, that's how some people deal with inheritance." I finished cleaning, but before I left, I did something I don't usually do. Something I'd stopped doing years ago after too many patients died and I got too attached. I touched Melissa's hand, just briefly, just to let her know someone was there. Her skin was cool but not cold, alive. I could feel her pulse, faint but steady, under my fingertips. "Good night, Mrs. Dixon," I said quietly. "I'll see you tomorrow." Jessica smiled at me as I left. "That's sweet of you, Peter." "Just being polite," I said. But it was more than that, and we both knew it. The second night, I brought my phone, played some classical music while I cleaned. Nothing loud. Hospitals have rules about noise, even at night. Just soft. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. The same piece my daughter Sarah had played at her high school recital 4 years ago. The recital where I'd cried in the audience because I was so damn proud of her. Sarah was studying music education at NYU now, living in a dorm in Brooklyn, working as a barista, tutoring kids in piano on weekends, picking up shifts at a campus library. 3 jobs to supplement the loans and the scholarships, and the small amount I could give her from my salary. Sometimes I felt like I'd failed her. Like if I'd been smarter, gone to college, gotten a better job, she wouldn't have to work so hard. She'd be able to focus on her studies instead of balancing 3 jobs and a full course load. But she never complained. Never once said, "Dad, why didn't you do better?" She just worked, just like I'd taught her. I hit play on Moonlight Sonata. The gentle piano filled the quiet room. Jessica came in while I was mopping under the bed. She paused, listening. "That's beautiful," she said. "What made you think to play music?" "My daughter loves classical music," I said. "She's studying to be a music teacher, and I read somewhere, maybe in one of those free health magazines in the waiting room, that coma patients might be able to hear, that music and voices can help, might help stimulate the brain or something. I don't know if it's true." "Some studies suggest it," Jessica said. "We don't really know what coma patients experience, but I think it's nice, better than just silence and machines. Can't hurt." That's what I figured. The third night, I started talking to her. Not because I thought she could hear, or maybe because I hoped she could. I don't know. Loneliness does strange things to people, and I was lonely, had been for a long time. "Good evening, Mrs. Dixon," I said as I came in with my cart. "It's Peter, the janitor. I'm here to clean your room. Sorry if the mop bucket is loud. This one's got a squeaky wheel I keep meaning to fix." I emptied her trash. Still empty, still no visitors. Started mopping. "I played you some Beethoven last night. Tonight I brought Chopin. My daughter Sarah says Chopin is more emotional. Beethoven is more intellectual. I don't really know the difference, but I trust her judgment. She's the expert." I wiped down the windowsill. Someone had left the blinds open. Outside you could see the lights of Manhattan, the city that never sleeps, the place where millions of people live their lives while Melissa Dixon lay here, suspended between living and dying. "Sarah's at NYU," I continued. "Music education. She wants to teach elementary school kids. Says she wants to give kids what I gave her, a love of music. I didn't give her that, though. I can't carry a tune in a bucket. I just enjoy listening to music. Her mother, my wife, she was the musical one, sang in the church choir, had a voice like an angel." I paused, realized I was talking about Rachel. Hadn't said her name out loud in months. Rachel died when Sarah was 3. She got sick and was gone in 6 months. I squeezed out the mop, watching the dirty water drain. I raised Sarah by myself after that. Did my best. Wasn't always great at it. Definitely wasn't great at helping with homework or doing her hair for school pictures. But we made it work. I moved to the other side of the bed. "You have a son, right? Thomas?" The nurses mentioned him. "I hope he's treating you right. I hope he's talking to you. Because even if you can't hear us, even if you're somewhere far away in your mind, I think it matters. I think it matters that people care." I don't know why I told her all this. Maybe because she couldn't judge me. Maybe because it felt good to talk to someone who wouldn't look at me like I was just the janitor. Maybe because loneliness is heavy and sometimes you need to set it down, even if it's in front of a stranger who can't respond. By the end of the first week it had become routine. Come in at 11 p.m. after the dinner trays were cleared and the evening visiting hours were over and the ICU was as quiet as it ever got. Clean the room. Play music, Beethoven, Chopin, Bach, Debussy, whatever Sarah had recommended in our last phone call. Talk to Melissa like she was awake. Tell her about my day, about Sarah, about the things I read in the chemistry textbooks I checked out from the Queen's Public Library every 2 weeks. "I'm reading about polymer chemistry right now," I told her one night. "It's fascinating, the way molecules bond, the way you can manipulate chemical structures to create different properties. Your company does a lot of work with industrial polymers, right? I read an article about Dixon Industries last week, about your eco-friendly manufacturing processes. Pretty impressive stuff." I sat down in the visitor's chair for a moment, something I wasn't supposed to do, but my feet hurt, and I was tired, and no one was around to tell me not to. "I wanted to study chemistry when I was young," I admitted. "Had dreams of going to MIT or Columbia, becoming a researcher, maybe working for a company like yours. But my dad left when I was 17. Just walked out one day, never came back. And my mom was working 2 jobs, but it wasn't enough. So I dropped out of high school, got my GED, started working. Needed to help with rent and food and bills. I looked at Melissa's still face. Wondered if, somewhere in the darkness of her coma, she could hear this. If it mattered. Never went to college, never studied chemistry beyond those library books, became a janitor instead. It's honest work. I'm not ashamed of it. But sometimes I wonder what I could have been, if life had been different, if I'd had the opportunities other people had. I stood up, got back to work. Anyway, that's enough about me. By week 2, something changed. The nurses started whispering. Dr. Martinez, the neurologist, came by more often, ran more tests. I overheard conversations, medical jargon I didn't fully understand but caught pieces of. Increased brain activity. Responding to stimuli. Possible emergence. Good news, right? But then Thomas started showing up more. Melissa's son, 42 years old, expensive suit. The kind of guy who looked at janitors like we were furniture. He never acknowledged me, would walk right past like I didn't exist, stand in his mother's room on his phone, talking about business, about money, about handling the situation. One night I was cleaning outside room 407 when I heard him talking to Dr. Martinez. "How much longer?" Thomas's voice, sharp, impatient. "Mr. Dixon, your mother is showing improvement. It's possible she could wake up. We need to give her time." "Time? It's been 2 weeks. You said there was no brain activity." "There wasn't, but now there is. The brain is remarkable. Sometimes I want a second opinion. I want you to declare her brain dead so we can make arrangements." A long silence. Then Dr. Martinez carefully, "Sir, that would be medically inaccurate. Your mother is not brain dead. She's in a coma with improving neural function. Then keep her comfortable. No extraordinary measures. Do you understand?" Another silence. "Yes, sir." I froze outside the door, kept my head down, kept pushing my mop, invisible, but I heard everything. 3 days ago, March 15th, I was cleaning room 407 at 11 p.m. like always. Melissa looked the same, peaceful, stable. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. I was playing Claire de Lune on my phone, wiping down the bedside table, when her hand moved. Just a twitch, a finger, barely noticeable. I stopped, stared. "Mrs. Dixon?" I whispered. Nothing, but I swear I saw her eyelids flutter. I hit the call button. Jessica came in. "I think she moved," I said. "Her hand, and her eyes." Jessica checked the monitors. "Everything looks normal, probably just muscle spasms. Happens in coma patients." "Are you sure?" "I'll note it in her chart, but try not to get your hopes up. These things, they don't always mean what we want them to mean." But I knew what I saw. 2 hours later I was taking my break in the janitor's closet on the 4th floor when I heard voices in the hallway. Administrators. Late-night meeting. "Dixon case needs to be resolved. The son is insistent. Wants to move forward with arrangements. But Dr. Martinez says she's improving." "Dr. Martinez can be overruled. Mr. Dixon has influence. Major hospital donor. He wants a declaration of brain death by end of week." "That's not ethical if she's not brain dead." "That's above our pay grade. Just make sure the paperwork is ready." I stood there in the dark closet, mop in hand, invisible as always, and I realized what was happening. Thomas Dixon was going to kill his mother for her money. Yesterday, March 17th, I saw the notice on the ICU board. "Dixon Melissa transferred to palliative care, family requesting cessation of life support, funeral arrangements pending." I found Jessica. What happened? She was improving. Jessica looked uncomfortable. Family decision. They have the right to refuse treatment. But she was getting better. "You said, Peter." She touched my arm gently. "I know you care, but this isn't our call. The family decides." I went to room 407. It was empty, bed stripped, machines gone. I asked another nurse where Melissa was transferred. "She wasn't transferred. She passed away last night." "She what?" "She died, Peter. I'm sorry. I know you'd gotten attached." "When's the funeral?" "Tomorrow. St. Catherine's Church, 10 a.m. I left the hospital in a daze, went home to my tiny apartment in Queens, couldn't sleep, because nothing about this made sense. At 3 a.m., I went back to the hospital, used my key card. Janitors have access to everything. Went to the palliative care wing, found room 802. The door said Dixon. I shouldn't have gone in, but I did. And there she was, Melissa Dixon, in the bed, breathing, chest rising and falling, monitors still beeping, not dead, alive. I stood there for 10 minutes watching her breathe, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would break my ribs. She wasn't dead. She was in a coma, still unconscious, but alive. They were going to bury her tomorrow. which brings me to now. March 18th, 10 a.m., St. Catherine's Church. I'm standing at the back in my janitor's uniform, 400 people in expensive clothes, flowers everywhere, a closed casket at the front of the church. Thomas Dixon is at the podium giving a eulogy. His voice is steady, practiced, full of fake emotion. "My mother was a brilliant woman," he says, "a pioneer in her field. She built Dixon Industries from nothing. She gave everything to her work, to her company, to the future of chemical innovation, and when the time came, she taught us the hardest lesson of all, when to let go, when to accept that some battles can't be won, when to choose peace over suffering." People are crying, dabbing their eyes with tissues. I'm shaking with rage. Thomas continues, "Yesterday my mother passed peacefully. She was ready. She'd fought long enough, and now we honor her memory by letting her rest." That's when I move, walk down the center aisle, past the pews full of people, past the flowers and the candles and the expensive grief. Thomas sees me coming, stops mid-sentence. His face goes white. I reach the front of the church, turn to face the congregation. "She's not dead," I say. My voice echoes in the vaulted ceiling. "Melissa Dixon is not dead. She's alive. She's in a coma at Mercy Hospital right now. I saw her this morning at 3 a.m. She's breathing. Her heart is beating. This funeral is a lie." Chaos. People gasping, shouting, standing up. Thomas recovers quickly. "Security. This man is delusional. He's a janitor from the hospital. He's clearly disturbed. Remove him immediately." 2 security guards move toward me, but I hold my ground. "I'm not delusional," I say louder. "I'm the night janitor at Mercy Hospital. I've cleaned Melissa Dixon's room every night for 3 weeks. I checked on her this morning at 3 a.m. She's alive. She's in room 802, palliative care wing. Call the hospital. Check for yourselves." "This is outrageous," Thomas snarls. "My mother died yesterday. We have a death certificate. This man is—" "Lying," I interrupt. "Like you've been lying? Like you pressured doctors to declare her brain dead when she was improving? Like you bribed administrators to falsify records so you could inherit her company?" The church is dead silent now. An older woman stands up in the front row. Elegant, 70s, sharp eyes. "I'm Margaret Winters, Melissa's attorney and friend for 30 years. Young man, are you certain of what you're saying?" "Yes, ma'am, completely certain. I saw her breathing this morning. She's not dead." Margaret pulls out her phone, calls someone, puts it on speaker. "Mercy Hospital, how may I direct your call?" "This is Margaret Winters, attorney for Melissa Dixon. I need to confirm the status of your patient, Melissa Dixon, currently listed as deceased." A pause. Typing. "One moment, please." Longer pause. "Ma'am, Melissa Dixon is currently in room 802, palliative care. Status, coma, stable condition." The phone almost drops from Margaret's hand. "She's alive," Margaret whispers, then louder. "She's alive!" The church erupts. What happened next was a blur. Police were called. Thomas was escorted out, screaming about lawsuits and slander. Margaret called the hospital administrator, demanded answers, threatened legal action that would destroy the hospital's reputation. The corrupt administrator, a man named Richard Stevens, who Thomas had paid $500,000 to falsify death records, confessed within hours. Thomas had threatened to pull all Dixon Industries donations unless they declared Melissa brain dead, had arranged a rushed funeral, planned to cremate her body before anyone could investigate. The death certificate was fake. The hospital records were falsified. Thomas had been planning to inherit Dixon Industries, worth over $3 billion, and immediately sell it to pay off gambling debts he'd hidden for years. Dr. Martinez, the neurologist who'd reported Melissa's improvement, came forward, said he'd been overruled, threatened, told to stay quiet or lose his job. Thomas Dixon was arrested, charged with attempted murder, fraud, bribery, conspiracy. Bail set at $10 million. And me? I went back to Mercy Hospital, back to room 802. She woke up 4 days later, March 22nd. I was cleaning her room at 11 p.m., like always. Playing Beethoven, like always. Talking to her about my day, like always. Evening, Mrs. Dixon. It's Peter. You're safe now. Everyone knows the truth. Her hand moved. Not a twitch. A deliberate movement. Her fingers closed around mine. I almost screamed. Hit the call button frantically. Her eyes opened. Slowly. Confused. Searching. Mrs. Dixon? My voice was shaking. Can you hear me? She looked at me, squeezed my hand. The nurses rushed in. Doctors, tests, chaos. But through it all, Melissa kept holding my hand. And when they asked her if she knew where she was, if she remembered anything, she whispered one word. Peter. She remembered. Somehow, through the coma, through the darkness, she'd heard my voice. Recovery took weeks. Physical therapy, speech therapy, relearning how to do everything a stroke steals from you. Margaret Winters visited every day, handled the legal situation with Thomas. He'd be going to prison for a long time. Handled the hospital investigation. Richard Stevens lost his medical license, faces criminal charges, and Mercy Hospital settled with Melissa for $15 million rather than face a public trial. I went back to my normal routine, cleaning floors, emptying trash. But one evening in late April, I was called to the hospital administrator's office. The new administrator, Dr. Patricia Cole, who'd replaced Stevens. Young Mrs. Dixon has requested to see you. She's being discharged today. Would you mind going to her room? I went, still in my janitor's uniform, still carrying my mop. Melissa was sitting up in bed, dressed in real clothes, looking thin but alive. So alive. Margaret Winters sat beside her. Peter, Melissa said. Her voice was still weak but clear. Sit down, please. I sat. Margaret has told me everything you did, how you stopped the funeral, how you exposed Thomas, how you saved my life. Her eyes filled with tears. But what she also told me, what the nurses told me, is that you were there every single night, talking to me, playing music, treating me like a person, not a body. You are a person, I said simply. The nurses said you talked about your life, about your daughter, about your dream to study chemistry. I felt my face heat up. I didn't mean to bother you with. You didn't bother me, Peter. You kept me tethered to life. I heard you. Not all the time, not everything. But your voice, the music, it was like a thread pulling me back from wherever I was. You saved me in more ways than stopping that funeral. She reached for an envelope on the bedside table. Margaret handed it to her. Peter, I'm not a woman who believes in charity. I believe in opportunity. I believe in giving people the chance they deserve. She held out the envelope. This is for you. I opened it. Inside was a letter and a check. The check was for $200,000. I almost dropped it. Mrs. Dixon, I can't. That's for your mortgage. Pay it off. You shouldn't have to worry about housing while you're pursuing your education. My education? You told me you wanted to study chemistry, that you never had the opportunity. Well, now you do. She pulled out another envelope. This is a letter to the Dean of Columbia University's Chemistry Department. I sit on their board. You're admitted, Peter. Full scholarship. All expenses paid. You start in the fall semester. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. There's more, Melissa continued. Once you start your studies, you'll have an internship position at Dixon Industries. Paid, in our chemical research division. You'll learn from the best, and when you graduate, if you want it, there's a job waiting for you. She smiled. A real smile. And one more thing, your daughter, Sarah. Margaret found out she's struggling to pay tuition at NYU. That's taken care of. Her remaining tuition, her expenses, everything. She can focus on becoming the music teacher she wants to be. Tears were streaming down my face. I couldn't stop them. Why? I managed to whisper. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you saw me, Peter, when no one else did. When I was invisible to everyone, including my own son, you saw me. You treated me with dignity. You cared." She leaned forward. "And because you're 52 years old. Most people would say it's too late to go back to school to start a new career. But I don't believe that. I built my company when I was 40, when everyone said I was too old to start. And I know that if someone had given me a chance, had believed in me the way you believed I was worth caring for, it would have made all the difference. It's not too late. It's never too late." That was 6 months ago. I'm sitting in a chemistry lecture at Columbia University. At 52 years old, I'm the oldest student in the class by 30 years. My classmates call me Pops. I don't mind. I work at Dixon Industries 3 days a week. Research work, learning how chemical compounds interact, how polymers form, all the things I used to read about in library books and dream about understanding. Sarah graduated from NYU last month, got a job teaching music at a middle school in Brooklyn. She cried when she got the offer. So did I. My mortgage is paid off. I'm not a janitor anymore. Though I'll always be grateful for those 30 years. They taught me that every job matters, that every person matters, that being invisible doesn't mean you don't see. Melissa Dixon is back at work, running Dixon Industries. She instituted new policies, doubled the minimum wage for all employees, added healthcare benefits for part-time workers, created a scholarship fund for employees who want to go back to school. Thomas is in prison, 20 years. He'll be 62 when he gets out. If he gets out. Sometimes I think about that morning at St. Catherine's Church, walking down that aisle, 400 people staring at me, Thomas Dixon's face going white. The moment I said, "She's not dead." I think about all the ways it could have gone wrong. If no one had believed me, if they'd thrown me out, if Melissa hadn't woken up. But she did wake up, and they did believe me, and everything changed. Not because I was special, not because I was smart or brave or anything extraordinary, but because I was there, because I paid attention, because I treated someone with kindness when no one else was watching, because I wasn't invisible to her, and she wasn't invisible to me. That's the thing about being seen, about really seeing someone. It changes everything. It changed my life. It saved hers. And it reminded me that everyone matters. Every voice, every person. No matter what their job title is, no matter who they are, we all matter. And sometimes, the people nobody notices are the ones who change the world. So, let me ask you, what would you have done in my position? Would you have spoken up when everyone thought you were crazy? Would you have trusted what you knew even when no one believed you? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this story reminded you that everyone's voice matters, that everyone deserves to be seen, hit that subscribe button. Because the world needs more stories like this. Stories that prove courage doesn't come from power or money. It comes from caring about people when no one's watching.